Before we begin, it's a good idea to quickly understand the fundamental difference between modeling in Plasticity and in polygonal software like Blender. So, in Blender, every object is made out of vertices, and those vertices form edges and faces between them. And so, if we want to edit our faces and edges, we are going to edit the vertices. Well, reasonable. But if we go to plasticity, we can instantly notice something weird. If we move a face back and forth, it behaves as we would expect. But if we move it sideways, seems like nothing is happening. Why? Remember how with polygons it all starts with points? Well, here it's the other way around. A solid object is described with faces that limit its volume. So if we move it sideways, it moves. It wouldn't really change anything because it limits the shape in the same way. And it gives us a lot of benefits for modeling in comparison with vertices and polygons. If you understand the limitations, it makes it super easy to make changes at any stage of the process. And about those limitations. Here, for example, if we delete the two faces on the left, it rebuilds itself, no issues. If we delete two faces on the top, same thing. But if we delete a face in the middle, it only produces an error because, well, it's not obvious how to rebuild it. If you think about our explanation of how it works, it will become clear that if we delete just one face here, the others would infinitely go parallel, failing to limit the shape's volume. And if we slightly change the angle of the top face, you can see how it quickly fixes everything. Now it becomes clear how to rebuild the shape in an obvious way. So when it comes to modeling, if something is not working, 9 out of 10 times it's gonna be this, where you are basically asking the software to do the impossible. Okay, let's model something now. So you open Plasticity for the first time. A couple of words on the interface first. So go to the top left, press the B button, go to Preferences. Here in Navigation, if you have an idea of what you would like, pick it. If you don't, stick with Blender. So it's gonna be middle mouse button for orbiting, middle mouse button plus shift for panning, and either scroll wheel or a middle mouse button plus control for the zoom. Now let's talk about selections. In the top left corner, you can see 4 icons. So the first one is for selecting control points. The second one is for edges. The third one is for faces. And the fourth one is for objects. And you can activate them either by pressing it with the mouse or by tapping 1, 2, 3, 4, or pressing 5 if you need all of them selected. So first you select the object, then you select whatever it has. You can also hold Shift to set any combination you would like. Whenever doing any action, you will get a pop-up in the bottom left with some options, and some other options will be accessible through the shortcuts shown in the bottom right. And to confirm any action, you just right-click your mouse anywhere. I will try to explain two approaches to start. And the first one is going to be more design oriented, where we not necessarily know how it should look like in the end. I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to start with that cube because why not? Select it, press S for scale, and get it roughly into the shape you want. Yeah, looks reasonable. Now I'm gonna press Ctrl R for isoparam, basically just a line cutting it, and press Tab to change the orientation. Now I'm gonna select one face, press R for rotate, and then press V to set its pivot. Now I'm gonna select both, press G to move. That looks reasonable. I'm gonna select those two edges and fillet them. And I would like to have a perfect cylinder on this side. So for that, I'm just gonna click full. Okay, that's good enough. One thing to note is that it's often important to align your camera to a certain axis. And you can do that either by clicking on the cube gizmo or by holding Alt and orbiting around. The alternative way to start would be for moments when we know exactly what to do and maybe even have the references. So I'm just going to drag and drop those images into Plasticity, position them accordingly. I have to go to Object Select in order to be able to select them. Now we can select all of them with Shift and press M to set the material. And I'm gonna render them always in front. With opacity set to 0.5. So we can always see the object through them. And I'm gonna move the first one and scale it roughly to match our cube. Then I'm gonna match our cube back to that image, but with a bit more precision. And now I'm gonna match those images the same way, one by one. You can also use a freestyle scale. So if you press scale, see, you have a hint for the shortcut. And if you press F, you select one point, you select another, and then you snap it to something, let's say this cube, and check here for uniform. You can also just set the pivot in the corner and press S again. Now, it would be really awkward if we would constantly select those references. So I'm just going to select all of them in the outliner by holding Shift. And then I'm going to press on this lock icon to protect us from being able to select it in the viewport. But we can still select it in the outliner and do anything we want with them. while we could continue with the cube, let's instead delete it and start it with a sketch. Press Shift A for the line tool, and you can either access the automatically creating guides for whatever line you're drawing. You can also tap on certain things with Shift to create extra guides. And I'm gonna, instead of the center circle that is default, I'm gonna hold on the icon and use a tangent circle. To avoid snapping, you can hold Control. Here, I'm gonna press B to fillet it. And then I'm gonna select those faces and extrude them up. To select every sketch that's on the same plane, you can hold Alt. And now X to delete. I'm not going to continue with the references, so I'm just going to select them and delete, because I want to explain it to you like you are designing it and you're not quite sure how it should look like in the end. So I'm going to quickly do those fillets again. Let's do a screen. Gonna press O for offset. Gonna move it in. Now I'm gonna select those two edges. By the way, about the selection, if you select from left to right, it will only select everything that's inside of it fully. But if you select right to left, it's gonna select everything the selection touches. So again, I'm gonna select those two edges, gonna start to fillet them, and let's say I want to match that fillet exactly, so I'm just gonna click on it. That's it. Now let's work on the buttons. So I'm just gonna quickly use offset to get some space for them. Now corner rectangle. Select that face and drag the gizmo to extrude it. And delete the sketch. Now, if you want to select every corner, instead of doing it one by one with Shift, you can just hold Control Alt, and that's it. And use the gizmo to fillet it. And move it a bit inwards. Okay, seems reasonable. Maybe I'm just gonna select that face and move it slightly to adjust its shape. To create multiple equally spaced buttons, it's a good idea to, instead of just copy and pasting it and moving it the same amount, to just select one, go into side view, and press F for search. By the way, we can actually find anything here, like fillet that we did, the extrude. Here we're gonna search for rectangular array. We're gonna select that guide and then adjust it and shift scroll our mouse wheel to change the amount of buttons. Now I want to show you another array, the radial one, and for that I'm gonna do the scroll knob on the top. So I'm gonna use the center circle, extrude it, and slightly adjust it. Okay, and in order for me to draw exactly on that plane and automatically align the camera, I'm just gonna press the spacebar and draw another center circle on it, slightly offset it, and then search for radial array. Okay, and then select the center. And again, you can use Shift Scroll to adjust the amount of copies, or in the menu on the bottom left. As we created them and as they are already automatically selected, I'm gonna press C for cut and select that knob, right click to confirm, and X to delete all of it. Now to remove the temp plane, you can either click here or press Shift spacebar. Okay, let's draw an antenna. I'm gonna snap it to the center, select it, extrude it, adjust it. And now if I want to create some width variation, a good idea is to use the same is a parameter that we previously used for the rib in the back. So I'm gonna press Ctrl R and press Tab. And now I'm gonna select the face inside and press D for the distance of the fillet, because it's just a bit more comfortable for me than to use the gizmo. Now we can also slide. Okay, here it doesn't work because it's really connected to that face. So in order for us to move it up and down, we better select both of them. And now there is no issue. And let's also draw a bit more detail on the knob. But it seems like everything is getting in the way. So I'm gonna search for isolate. And here you can add a shortcut to whatever you want. So let's say remove shortcut, assign shortcut, Shift W. Now every time I press Shift W, I'm gonna isolate it. If I press Shift W while nothing is selected, it's gonna unisolate back. And you can also have many layers to it. Okay, isolate. Now let's use center circle again. And if we extrude it down, it extrudes as a new body, which is not a problem. We can boolean it out afterwards. But here you can see there are shortcuts for boolean operations. So W for difference. You press W, you select that knob, and it automatically booleans it out. And now we can adjust it. Now, if we want to do the chamfer, but the same way as we did the fillet, by pressing D and dragging away from the center, we can just press C and A to change the angle of it. Now I want to work a bit on the design and create a shape that would unite all the buttons. So for that, I'm just gonna duplicate a button, move it slightly in front to make it easier to work on, offset and use Control to snap it. So you just hold Control and hover over something. Now I'm gonna Alt click on the side to select all adjacent faces, and I'm gonna slightly offset it. And now I'm gonna move it back in line with the case. Now select one, select the other, press Q for boolean, and Q again for a union. Now let's create a lanyard hole for it, and I'm gonna work on it piece separately at first. Same things that we did previously. Here I'm gonna press O for offset. Now extrude it down so it would just create a hole. And now offset that face. By the way, you can double tap R to rotate in screen space. Same, by the way, with move and scale. So I'm gonna press R 2 times and hold Control to snap to 5-degree increments. Now, instead of offsetting a face, I'm gonna select all of them, press G for move, V for selecting the pivot, and move it like this. Why? Just to show you. Now I'm gonna select that face, press E, extrude it out. Now, if I don't do anything, it's gonna join them. So I want press B for new body. Alt click on the inside to select the adjacent faces. Now move it a bit back. And now we're gonna select the body of the radio, that object that we created to use as a cutter, and press Q for boolean. Let's also cut a little corner for it. And we can, by the way, press tab whenever we do something like that. And tab again to select the other value and write 45. Move it, press C and cut it. Let's now talk a bit more about chamfers and fillets. If I, for example, select this edge and try to either chamfer or fillet it, you can see that it automatically does the same thing with all adjacent edges. To not do that, I can either click here or press T, but now it gives me an error. It doesn't do anything. Because if you remember our previous explanation, it doesn't really make much sense. So, for example, what we can do is select that edge and that edge and that edge and that edge, chamfer them and press T. Here it makes a bit more sense, but let's say I just want a little bit of chamfer here and there. What should I do? Okay, you can press L for a limit, click once to put it, another L for another limit, set it here. You can also click on those dots to tell where it should limit it. And now I'm gonna select the inside edges and fillet them. Also remember our analogy with the limiting faces. We can actually edit it, but it's gonna be a bit tricky. So we could rotate it and it could rebuild itself if we move precisely around the center axis. So I'm gonna go X-ray mode or Alt Z, press rotate, and then set the pivot in the middle of any of those axes. And now it works. And I guess it's time to now do a fillet on top of it all. You can also toggle the rendering of the edges. Viewport, toggle edges, and I've set its shortcut to 6. I would say that for a simple radio, that's almost it. But if we want for it to be a bit more ergonomic, there is really no way for us to do it without certain tools that are in general, and using them in general is called surfacing. We have to do a couple of steps back. We're gonna hide that by pressing H. We're gonna select those, that, gonna press Alt D to create a boolean shape for it that we're gonna use later to get that cutout back. We're gonna hide it as well. Now we're gonna delete that, and we're gonna delete that fillet. Okay. Now we need to somehow draw the shape that we want to cut out, that we want to be ergonomic. Okay. For that, I'm gonna draw a line, this line, Shift A, and I'm gonna press K to turn it into a knife. Now it's drawn on the geometry as the edge of the geometry. Now to continue that cut to the right, while we could use the same technique where we would draw a perpendicular one, press K, sometimes it's not very reliable. So I'm gonna show you a different way. I'm gonna draw a long edge. I'm gonna extrude it to create a sheet. I'm gonna delete the original one. I'm gonna rotate it sideways 90 degrees. And I'm just gonna slide it into the body. Then I'm gonna select the body first, then the sheet. I'm gonna press Shift I to imprint and right click. Now, if we delete that, you can see that it left a mark where they were intersected. Okay, now I'm gonna select those two faces, and instead of pressing X to delete, I'm gonna press Shift X to cut that out, turning it into, by the way, you can see it here, it's now a sheet, so not a solid body. Now the plan is to use spline curves to force the geometry to go a bit more organic. And a couple of things on how spline curves work. So if we start drawing one, you can see that it goes through points that we set it to go through. But we can also press Tab to switch from control point through point. So now they are instead control points that we place, and the curve doesn't have to go through them. So I'm gonna select the spline curve, go here, click once, click twice, and end it. Okay, now if I press 1 for control points, I can adjust it. Let's make it a bit more ergonomic. Now, if we hold Alt and select an edge in that hole, it's going to select every edge that creates that hole, and we can press Shift J for patch, and then while holding Shift, click on our curve. So it's going to use it as a guide. On the left side, it can be easily fixed with another guide curve, but I'm going to show you a problem here. So you see, if we turn off our edge rendering, it seems pretty sharp. Not an issue, because you see we can force a certain continuity of our connections. So here it's G0. It doesn't have to be smooth, it can be sharp. So if we press once, it's gonna be G1. Looks reasonable. But if we click G1 here and here, it creates an error. Why is that? If you remember, when creating this curve, I moved two of those points to the right, and that creates an issue. So this curve, even though it's not very obvious, goes at an angle to that face. So we are basically telling the software, please, can you make it go smooth into that face while following a curve that goes sharply into that face? And remember our analogy about simpler modeling, how a lot of our issue is going to be where we're going to ask software to do the impossible. With surfacing, 95% of your issue is going to be that as well, where you are basically asking the software to do two contradicting tasks. So to fix that, I'm gonna select that point, move it back, and snap it to the previous point. Now, if we try to do the same thing, it works. We just need a bit more guide curves. So I'm gonna do the same thing, spline curve. Try to find that guideline. 1, 2, 3. Gonna move that point away. Now there can be an issue where a patch tool often struggles with multiple guidelines that go in the middle. So we're gonna use something else. We're gonna select this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge, and press L for loft, and it's gonna create a continuous sheet, but it's not gonna be connected in the corners. So the same way as we used our guidelines before, we're gonna hold Shift and click on those edges. Here it creates an error, but we can see that it instantly tried to make it a G1, and as you remember, yeah, that would be impossible. We're telling it to go smooth while following a guideline that is sharp. So we're gonna click until it's G0. We're gonna shift click on those two. And that seems to do the trick. Okay, we're gonna now select those two as objects and press J to join them. And now we can see that in the outliner, it's not a sheet anymore, it's a solid body. Let's now get back our details by unhiding everything. Alt H. I'm gonna select the cutter, isolate it, and left click on all of those continuous edges and offset them to make it much bigger, because previously it was a bit smaller than the patched new body. So now we can select 1, 2, Q for boolean, and that's it. And also a new fillet. Let's now clean it up a bit. So we select everything. We search for delete redundant topology. Let's now do the last little thing. Let's just draw some text on those, A, B, and C. I'm gonna press spacebar and search for text. I'm gonna write A, B, and C. I'm gonna try different fonts. And now I'm gonna extrude those letters and scale them. Gonna move them deeper and then use them as booleans. Now imagine how nice it would be to just instantly send it to Blender and start texturing just by adjusting different sliders. Well, for that you can check out my ArtStation store and the Universal Blender material. If you are also interested in designing stuff like that radio, I have a design process of a folding pistol where it's not necessarily about weapons, more about props in general. So basically, the full process from scratch, from nothing to the finished and rendered 3D model. And thank you.